Azumanga Daioh is my favorite school anime and one of my favorite comedy shows of all time. I love that it tells the full story of a group of high school girls from their first year all the way to graduation. It set the foundation for absurdist humor in 2000s anime, and the emotional moments hit pretty hard by the end of the series. In this video, I'll show you 6 things about Azumanga Daioh that you might not have thought about before, including the full explanation of the title, Osaka's 2025 return, and the fact that almost everyone in the show is a cat. Lots of shows have repeating themes, but Azumanga Daioh takes its cat theme even further. You can make an argument that just about every character who has more than one line in the show becomes a cat at some point, with only one exception. See if you can guess who that is. As I look at it, there are a few different ways for someone to become a cat in the show, including wearing Sakaki's father hats, wearing the cat suit of the culture fair, or having a name that is in some way cat-based. But there's one human character who could literally be a cat, depending on how you interpret the show's lore. If Chiyo's father is a cat, then that means that Chiyo would also be a cat, or at least a half-cat. I'm sure this was probably talked about at the time the anime came out, but I wasn't into anime back then, so this is something that just occurred to me about 2 months ago. I think it's hilarious. During one of the New Year's episodes, several of the girls have these dreams that range from wishful thinking to complete insanity. And in Sakaki's dream, one of Chiyo's dolls in the shape of a cat starts moving around and talking and tells Sakaki that he's Chiyo's father. Sakaki gets a little confused by this dream throughout the rest of the show, so in Sakaki's mind, Chiyo's father remains this talking cat doll who may or may not be an alien, which would make Chiyo a literal cat. The only character with lines in multiple episodes who never becomes a cat in any way is Yukari-sensei. She never has a cat nickname or a cat name tag, she never wears Sakaki's father hats, and she never wears the cat suit from the first cultural festival. Every other main character identifies as a cat in some way. Chiyo wears the cat suit and is perhaps a literal cat. Kaorin also wears the cat suit. Osaka, Tomo, and Himura wear Sakaki's father hats and the cat suit, while Kagura, Yomi, and Chihiro just wear the father hats. There are also at least 3 characters who are given a cat-based name in the show. Nyamo's nickname has that nya sound that a cat makes in Japanese. Sakaki wears a name tag that says cat during the first cultural festival, and Tomo-chan calls herself the Wildcat High School Girl, which is a bit of ironic foreshadowing because the group will meet an actual wildcat later in the show. Tomo is also the only character to wear the cat suit, wear the father hat, and call herself Cat, although it is Sakaki who's involved in all the major cat plot points. She's there when the class finds a kitten, she dreams about Chiyo's dad, she meets the stray cats and gets scratched by them, and she meets the Iriomote cat at the end. It's a little strange that she's the only non-adult in the main cast who never becomes a cat by putting on a costume or wearing the father hats. She designs the father hats, but she doesn't wear one. She gets her picture taken with the cat costume, but she never wears it. So the one girl who never seems to wear any cat costume is also the one who loves them the most. I always thought it was a little odd that Miss Yukari seemed to have a dead ringer mini-me in Tomo-chan, but none of the girls seem to be a good fit to grow up and be the next Nyamo. Except that there is an answer to this, and that answer is, it's Osaka. How do I know this? Earlier this year in chapter 114 of Yotsuba End, readers got a big surprise when an adult Osaka showed up and had a comedy showdown with the 5-year-old girl from the manga's title. Apparently, Osaka's trademark spaciness fit in perfectly with the comedy style of the newer manga, and she and Yotsuba were able to fit together as a comedy duo, just as if they were both made for the same manga, which is pretty cool. And it turns out that not only did Osaka grow up into a functioning adult who could hold down a job, but she's now a PE teacher, just like Nyama was. I think it's great that Osaka was able to make something of herself and step into the footsteps of the adult who is probably the most positive role model that she had growing up. There's no word yet on whether more cameos are planned for Osaka or some of the other Azumanga Daioh girls, but Osaka does work at the same school that some of the main Yotsuba characters attend, so it's definitely a possibility. Kaorin is in an interesting position in the show. She seems to occupy a middle space between the viewer and the main girls. Kaorin represents that distance that the viewer will always have between themselves and the action of the anime. She's part of the anime, but she's always just a little bit outside of the main goings-on, even though she desperately wants to be a part of the main group of girls, primarily because of her infatuation with Sakaki. But Kaorin's most important role is that she acts as a buffer between us and Kimura. Kimura is, of course, totally out of date now. It was creepy back then to have a teacher basically stalking high school girls, and his character is aged as well as a glass of milk in a sauna. Lots of shows would already be forgotten if they had a character who clashed this harshly with modern views. But there are a couple of things that keep him from wrecking the show. The biggest help is that his creeper scenes can be put to the side with little impact on the main story. He doesn't really interact that much with any of the main cast. Whenever he shows up, it's a scene about him and his weirdness, rather than an important moment of plot development. The show even tries to soften up the creepier aspects of his character by giving him a devoted wife and family, but he's just too creepy to make this work. The one girl that he does latch onto is Kaorin, a character who is in the anime but adjacent to the main story. So Kaorin bravely acts as a buffer to keep this guy out of our way and away from the main characters, even as his creepiness lurks about in the shadows, ready at any moment to spring a bit of cringe onto the unsuspecting viewer. There are a lot of bad explanations for the title out there. The worst one I've seen is that Azumanga Daioh is a nonsense title that means Great King Daioh and doesn't have any real significance. There is a little sliver of truth in there. Daioh does mean a great king. The incomplete explanation that you'll usually hear is that Azumanga is a combination of the author's family name with the word manga, and the Daioh part is the magazine where the manga was published. And that's all true, but it's not the full story. Kiyohiko Azuma is the creator of the manga. I always assumed he was a woman, but he's a guy. And if you combine Azuma with the word manga, you get Azumanga. What doesn't always get explained is that Azumanga is the word that he uses to describe all of his works. Anything that he makes is considered Azumanga. This includes primarily Azumanga Daioh and the long-running series Yotsuba End, or Yotsuba To, a manga about a 5-year-old girl which Azuma started shortly after he wrapped up Azumanga Daioh. But all of his works are considered Azumanga, including whatever he decides to create in the future. The Daioh, or Great King part, does come from the magazine that published the manga. The full name for this publication is Gekkan Komiku Dengeki Daioh, or Monthly Comic Dengeki Daioh. Dengeki is the name of a media brand that the publishing company uses to group various projects like magazines, tankobon manga volumes, and other media. The word itself means an electric shock. Think of it like this. The Cheetos company sells a lot of different products: mac and cheese, pretzels, cheese puffs, and actual Cheetos. They use the Flamin' Hot label as a marketing term for different flavors of spicy Cheetos, just as the Dengeki electric shock label gets applied to different media products. The Daioh or Great King part of the name is similar to a single flavor of Cheetos under the Flamin' Hot brand. So the full meaning of Azumanga Daioh is it's the part of Azuma's manga works that was published in the Dengeki Daioh monthly magazine. Of course, he's also been publishing Yotsuba in that exact same magazine for over 22 years now, so the title's a little out of date. If you've somehow clicked on this without ever watching Azumanga Daioh, then please watch it in Japanese with the subtitles. The show is just not funny in the English dub, and it doesn't match the tone of the original. And that's kind of weird because the voice actors they chose are really good. Lucy Christian, Monica Real, Alison Summerall, Tiffany Grant. There's a lot of talent there, so it's not their fault. It's just one of those shows where they gave it their best shot in the dubbing and it didn't quite work out. One of the challenges for the dub is how do you handle Osaka's character? In the original, she has an Osakan accent and combines that with a dreamy and spacey drawl that fits her character perfectly. In the English version, they tried a southern US drawl to try and match that, but she never reaches that same level of head-in-the-clouds spaciness as her Japanese counterpart, at least in my opinion. That's a critical part of Osaka's character and even a key part of the experience of the show. Listening to Osaka drone on about some nonsense she made up can make the bizarre seem normal, which makes the punchlines hit harder. Getting used to Osaka's weirdness provides an entrance to the other weird bits in the show, so it doesn't seem out of place when a little girl rides a dog, or those New Year's dreams arrive, or when Sakaki gets attacked by a gang of feral suburban cats. Anyway, that's just one man's opinion. Maybe you love the dub, but if you've never understood the appeal of the show, then try watching it subbed if you haven't. That'll give you the best chance to understand why people love it so much. One last reason why fans love this show is that it gets the closing theme song just right. Raspberry Heaven by Oranges and Lemons. That even just sounds right when you say it. You get this wonderful, aspirational song about the girls finding this dream world where they get to be everything that they're trying to become. That's how I see it, at least. And of course, they're led by Osaka, the true leader of the girls and the perfect character to take you on a journey of self-discovery through gentle, dream-filled skies. Chiyo might be the conscience of the group, and maybe Sakaki and Yomi are the class moms along with Nyamo, but it is Osaka who's the true leader of the group, off in the corner, forging new paths that nobody even knew existed. To me, that theme song and the accompanying visuals emphasize that although these characters are fictional, they represent some of the best parts of everyone's past, or maybe the past that you wish you had. When I see those girls flying through those skies, it seems as if the show is saying that here, at least, is a place where those characters are happy, and where the viewer can always return, even if that place is completely made up. Let me know if there's one of the characters that you relate to the most, or if you have any secrets about the show that I missed. I hope you enjoyed these facts about Azumanga Daioh. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.